3, went to work for Mary Whittinghill over at Montana Taxpayer Association, Senate Minority Office during the session, and then he's a contractor for us, basically laying the groundwork. He's our Helena guy for transparency. And he's got a master's degree from the University of Montana, but that's all right. Okay. Nichols, Kurt Nichols, Nichols. And he'll be he'll be in the forum this afternoon. It'll be the same 3 of us up here. And so now we'll give it over to Sandra, and Sandra will talk a little bit. And again, if you have questions through this, you don't have to wait. Just raise your hand. Or we are taping this session only this afternoon. So please, if you do have a question, grab the mic if you would, just so we can get the question on tape as well. Once we get into the panels, nothing gets taped and nothing goes out. It's all just between us girls kind of thing.
All right. Well, thanks, Carl. I guess after this morning's bird's eye view of the issue, I want to get a little bit more into the details of what it actually is that we're looking to achieve here and in other states, and what really provides a transparency portal that empowers your taxpayers to really hold their elected officials accountable. So a couple of the guiding questions are, what do we really want in such a website? Well, on that website, you should be able to easily discern how government is spending the tax dollars, meaning answering the questions of how much, to whom, and on what. But that's just the big picture overview. True fiscal accountability really is only possible when we can answer the following questions in the affirmative, or when we can say, does the website meet the following criteria? Does it incorporate all government expenditure categories? And that ranges from grants to contracts to purchase orders, task orders, expenditures made with government purchase cards, which, for example, at the federal level, those were not captured, at least until the beginning of, were not required to be captured until the beginning of this current fiscal year. Agency outlets like staff salary, travel expenditures, and then you also get into the questions of whether to include bond payments, aid to local unions of government if applicable. So you want to be as broad as possible in coverage of the types of expenditures that you want to include there. You want to provide detail on the individual expenditures. You don't just want aggregates, but people want to know, ideally line by line, what it actually was that the money went for and who received the money. What also is important is the searchability of the website. Ideally, you would want a website that is searchable by keyword and by categories. There's also another question that ties into that, and that is the question whether the website should be searchable by outside search engines. Because a lot of times you'll have the internal search engine, but I guess I'm not really a tech person, but for search engines like Google or Yahoo or all those web services, there is a certain switch, so to speak. I mean, speaking as a non-tech person, that you can flip, and that will either allow outside search engines to search your website or not. And many government websites actually have that switch flipped off. So from the outside, you're not going to be able to get directly to the data, and that is something to consider in there that we might want to see included. The website should be easy to use. It should be frequently updated, and as I said this morning, today information exchange occurs virtually in real time over the internet. So we should try to get as close to real time as possible in terms of data updates. We want access to the actual expenditure document. Again, as I mentioned this morning, if you can look at the actual contract, if you can look at the actual grant, you're going to learn so much more about the expenditure itself and be able to put it into context. Then there's a requirement, and that is something that was brought to ALEC by somebody who's more of a tech person than I guess we were. And that is the requirement that the data be structured. And what that means is the website should programmatically search and access all the data in a serialized, machine-readable format, such as XML. And what this actually does is it allows other websites, other groups to pull the data, to download it, to just get the data, and then create mesh-ups. For example, if you were to mesh up spending information with a program like MapQuest, you could actually see where, on a map, where the expenditures are going. This is the type of thing that is possible today. It's being done today. There are examples of those mesh-ups, and they are certainly a great tool. As you work on this is certainly something worth considering and including it in there. Then another question is, should we include a disclosure threshold? And this is something that was brought to us courtesy of the federal legislation. And unfortunately, we're seeing this perpetuated in some of the states that are doing this, especially the ones that are just wanting to copy the template that their hero, Senator Obama, worked on. The federal legislation had a $25,000 threshold for disclosure. We think even that for the federal level is too high. It should be zero. Why is there a threshold at all? The big problem is, or the federal OMB told us, there are not very many contracts at the federal level over below the amount of $25,000. And while that may be true, it has created a problem for us at the local level, because people have been just copying and pasting the legislation basically and have been wanting to adopt those disclosure thresholds. But really, fiscal accountability starts with the very first dollar, and you want to get no disclosure threshold at all. So that is something we've been arguing with OMB and members of Congress in that. We're working to get follow-up legislation to the federal law that would eliminate that disclosure threshold and make some additional improvements there. Then I guess we talked about some people saying, we have the budget online. Isn't that enough? Well, obviously, no, it isn't. But then also people point to CAFR reports. Again, these do not show you who gets what. And that is what people are interested in. And they don't want the aggregates. They want the detailed line-by-line information. Now, then there are some additional questions that you can think about. At this point, no state has that included in their website, but does the government post an inventory of all held assets and lands? Isn't that something that should be included in there? And I guess Barry Paulson talked a lot about the retirement liabilities that we have. Should that be included in there? Is that part of what we should be incorporating? Then some questions not directly related to the actual website, but something for you to think about in the context of achieving greater government transparency and accountability. Is all legislation with a fiscal impact, or frankly all legislation, available online for public review before it gets voted on? Shouldn't there be a waiting period for bills, at least all the bills with a fiscal impact, so that people can take a look and study what is being proposed? That is another component of transparency. And are all the votes on fiscal issues recorded online? So those are some of the thoughts. Just looking at some of the websites, and I guess in the panel I can just go through a couple of those examples in detail. But as Carl was saying, the perfect website isn't out there yet. Missouri is a very good starting point. They have the contracts in there. They're updated frequently. But the level of detail provided for each expenditure could be enhanced, and we're looking to work with folks in Missouri on getting that done. In Kansas, they have a broader set of categories that are included, but they don't